Hey, what is up everyone? In this video we're ranking the first 10 seasons of Sea of Thieves. With season 10 coming to an end soon, it seems like the perfect time to figure out what was the best and worst seasons of the game. So starting off our list at our number 10 spot, somewhat appropriately is Season 10. So I actually almost had this in our number 9 spot, but the more I thought about this list, I decided I wanted to make the impact the features had after the season to be a bigger factor. So with Season 10, there really wasn't much added that improved my experience with the game. The biggest feature for me was the addition of rowboats staying with your ship after a session. That is actually really cool. But looking at, say, guilds or safer seas, neither have benefited my experience playing the game. In fact, in some ways it actually makes it worse by adding more annoying UI menus, making it take longer to get into a game. The Skull of Siren Song is probably the most notable part of this season, and while I think there could be potential for some fun moments with it, it's not unique enough for me to give it much credit. Like I've said before in other videos, it feels more like a reskinned Reaper chest with extra steps to me. This won't be the only time we talk about updates that are like this in this video. Finally, the worst part of the season was the lack of events that were once a staple of the game. Festival of the Dam, Grogmany, and the Festival of Giving were basically non-existent during the season, and it was a major factor as to why this season felt so disappointing. Next up at number 9, and I promise not all of these will match up like this is going to be Season 9. So at first glance, Season 9 could be considered the worst season of the game. It was essentially just a lot of bug fixes and back-end changes. It also ended up being our longest season, lasting over 7 months. Season 9 felt drawn out from the first week it came out, so 7 months just felt like forever. But thinking about the impact of the game, stuff like the Chest of Fortune and the improved harpoon are far bigger impacts to my experience in the game compared to Season 10. Season 9 can also be credited with other additions like the Hoarder's Hunt mystery and the Monkey Island Tall Tales. While maybe not the best content in the game, at least it's something to do. Moving on, we have Season 2. Season 2 had some bright spots, but what really brought it down for me is the big featured content added this season. The Fort of Fortune was the headlining feature for Season 2, and it made it the third skeleton fort added to the game. This update really felt like recycled content to me. You basically took the regular skeleton fort, added an Ashen Lord from the Ashen Winds event, and you basically had the Fort of Fortune there. While I don't hate this fort, I do think this addition was unnecessary and felt a bit lazy, similar to how the Skull of Siren Song was just a reskin of other content in the game. One idea for improving the Fort of Fortune in the future is perhaps make it so that it's just kind of viewed as a regular skeleton fort, but it's only available inside the Devil's Roar, making it kind of fit better inside the Sea of Thieves world, whereas the regular skeleton forts are, across the main regions of the game. You have the Devil's Roar, which is always supposed to be like higher risk, higher reward. So if you have, instead of having regular skeleton forts there, you have a more amped up Fort of Fortune. Like I said, my opinions on the Fort of Fortune has softened. I think Season 9 actually did help with some of the improvements they added in terms of streamlining that gameplay, but in general it just wasn't a great headlining feature for a season because it just felt recycled. On the bright side though, Season 2 also added trade routes, which felt unique and added nicely to the Merchants Alliance. Season 2 also featured one of my favorite non-holiday events with the Reapers vs. the World, which was a ton of fun and helped encourage both PvP and PvE. Following that, we have Season 3. This season was our big Pirates of the Caribbean crossover, with 5 new tall tales, the portal system, and a range of new enemies. You can argue whether the new enemies added were good or not. I can tell you from personal experience, some of these new enemies get very annoying to play with, especially the sirens when you're trying to board another ship. But my favorite of these new enemies have to be the Phantoms, which I really do enjoy fighting, and they don't annoy me like the other enemies do. Looking over at the Tall Tales, these are some of the best added in the game. The only reason this season isn't any higher on my list is because outside of the new enemy types, there wasn't much change to the main adventure mode. Yes, the Tall Tales are some of the best ones we got in the game, but they feel very isolated and separate from the main mode. So while we had this great new experience to try out, there wasn't really anything different about what we were playing on our normal day-to-day. With all that said though, I still think this is a great season. At our number 6 spot, we have Season 7. Season 7 suffers the same fate as Season 10, being very delayed and way too focused on adding new systems. However, the features added in Season 7 were far more impactful than in Season 10. Captaincy was the headlining feature in this season, with players now being able to own their ships and would be able to have its own progression attached to it. It added new customization options like trinkets and other decorations on your ship, as well as adding the Sovereign, which made it easier to sell loot quickly. These were all great features when they worked. During Season 7, many of these new features were completely bugged and had issues persisting throughout the entire season, but looking back at the season now, it definitely has aged well, with many of the additions still being impactful today. Moving on to our number 5 spot, we have Season 8. This season was very well received when it first came out, with 2 new factions to level up and a brand new 1v1 PvP mode, with 2 ships fighting till one can be sunk. This brought expansions to both the Athena's Fortune hideout and the Reaper's Lair, as well as some great new curses to try and earn. If you do not like PvP, this season was probably not that interesting to you, but if you do like it, then this was great. I will say this is not a great replacement for the arena, because I feel like the arena was such a unique experience, but it was at least something for the PvP crowd who was craving something like this. The only real complaint I have about this update in this season, and it's something that I said from the very beginning, is that I wish this new PvP mode had a time limit so that playing it would be more predictable, because sometimes when you're playing it could be a battle that lasts 5 minutes, or it could be a battle that lasts 3 to 4 hours, and it's just too unpredictable in my opinion to be able to play, because you can't leave the battle once it starts, or else you have to forfeit the entire thing. But with all that said, let's move on to our next spot, which is Season 5. Similar to Season 9, this was a collection of smaller updates rather than some big feature added. The difference between Season 9 and this season was that Season 9's features were much more behind the scenes, and Season 5 actually felt like something you could interact with. These features were also just more fun. Stuff like being able to bury your own treasure or shoot fireworks are just tons of fun and really help with the role-playing aspects of the game. Other great additions were the cannon rowboats, sitting and sleeping, which actually sleeping can come in really handy when you're trying to heal and conserve food. Another really big feature for me was the storage crate transfer, which was game changer in my opinion in terms of supplying up your ship. This season also had some great events like the Festival of Giving and Grogmany. At our number 3 spot, we have Season 6. So I had mixed feelings about this one. 2 big things really hurt this season. First with the massive delay of Season 7, which prolonged this season, as well as the removal of Arena. But Season 6 added one of my favorite things in the game with the Sea Forts. Sea Forts are great not only for having simple but fun PvE, but they're also great for role-playing and they are quick to complete. But that wasn't the only thing added in Season 6. Season 6 also brought with it a new Pirate Legend Voyage, which was actually fun to do as opposed to the original Pirate Legend Voyage, which was basically just recycled content of the other main factions. Both of these together were great additions to the game, and Sea Forts alone were enough to push it high on this list. If it wasn't for those 2 big issues, Season 6 would probably be a lot higher on this list. Next we have Season 1. I'm actually surprised the first season made it so high on this list, but looking back at Season 1, it was actually pretty great. It gets some credit for introducing the Season Pass, which was a nice way of earning rewards for just playing the game. It also was really well supported with a unique event each month packed with fun challenges and rewards. Finally, while it may not be the best headlining feature we've gotten for a season, it was at least something unique and fun. This new feature was the Lost Shipment Voyages, and it really helped the Merchants Alliance be more enjoyable to do with a voyage that felt fresh and engaging. I don't think this voyage is done much anymore, but Season 1 is still a good model for what a season could and should be. Finally, at our number 1 spot, we have Season 4. Season 4 does a lot of things right. This season introduced us to the Sunken Kingdom with both the Siren Shrines and Treasuries. These are awesome and maybe one of the most underrated pieces of content in the game. The Siren Shrines are just so unique and the environment is just fantastic to explore. The Treasuries on the other hand are similar to Sea Forts, but with better variety of enemies. Season 4 did well not only with having a huge amount of content, but also with supporting the season, like with the Fury of the Dam event. I'm not saying that this season's perfect, but it did do a lot of things right, in my opinion. But that covers my ranking for the first 10 seasons of Sea of Thieves, and I'm looking forward to the next 10 that we get. Let me know what you thought about my ranking and what your favorite season of the game is in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you like and subscribe. And until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye y'all.